Sports Live. Broadcasting from the Mountain Home Services studios.
What a beautiful evening for KSL Sports Live. Hey there, friends. Thanks for including us in your busy Saturday plans. We've got a lot to bring your way over the next 30 minutes. A handful of Utah Hockey Club players are headed to the World Championships this summer. Who's going? And we take a look at the bright future of one of those players here in Utah. A legend, Gregg Popovich, is calling it a career after nearly 3 decades as Spurs head coach. We take a look back at some of his iconic playoff battles with the Utah Jazz. Now that the NFL draft is in the books, our local rookies are already getting busy at rookie camp. We catch up with one of them this afternoon. Plus, the unprecedented Delta Center renovations have been revealed. We'll take a look at what that looks like coming up a little bit later on. But we're going to begin with Game 7. No drama could ever be scripted quite like the live theater that is the NBA playoffs. And in the NBA, the opening round between the Clippers and Nuggets came down to one win-or-go-home game in Denver. Game 7 at Ball Arena tipped off not too long ago. James Harden, with a big Game 1 for the Clippers, finds Ivan Zubac inside for the first points of the game. Vica Zubac, I should say. A couple plays later, Harden to Derek Jones Jr. for the layup. Nuggets looking for their first points. Nikola Jokic finds Christian Brown for 3. Then on the other end of the floor, Jokic grabbing the board. The bullet pass ahead to Brown. 5 quick points for him. Jokic is so good at those passes. Harden and Leonard were scoreless for the first part of this, but Jones hits a 3 to give LA the 4-point lead. Nuggets went on a 13-7 run. Jokic only 2 points, but has 5 assists already. Is he already on triple-double watch? He's always on triple-double watch. James Harden hasn't taken a shot yet. Kawhi Leonard with 4 points, led by the 7 points from Derek Jones Jr. That first quarter is just barely winding down. We'll have all the highlights at 9. All right, let's tighten up those laces and take a sprint through today's action in the big leagues, beginning in the Bronx, where this guy, he may have just won Dad of the Year. His daughter blindfolding him. He still catches the ball. Aaron Judge crushed his 11th homer of the season. His batting average is now up to .432. He has a 13-game hitting streak, but the Yankees lose the game 3-2. On the south side of Chicago, the White Sox hosting the Astros. What a game for Astros center fielder Jake Myers. He crushed 2 homers, a triple, a double, knocked in 7 RBI, finished a single short of the cycle. Houston wins 8-3. At Fenway Park, the Red Sox hosting the Twins. Game time lead is now 4-3. All right, the Blue Jays took a 3-0 lead over the Guardians into the 8th inning this afternoon in Toronto. Cue Daniel Schneemann. The former BYU Cougar hit a solo shot in the 8th and then a grand slam in the 9th to give Cleveland a 5-3 lead. Cleveland's 19th win of the season, 2 games back of the Tigers. As bad as the Rockies have been, they have won their last 3 games, 2 of their last 3, but today in San Francisco, the Giants, reminding them that they're still at the bottom of the league. Luis Matos solo homer in the 3rd, then in the 6th, Matt Chapman with the grand slam. The Giants win 6-3. It's their 21st win of the season. And the Sacramento A's, or whatever they are, had a 6-4 lead in the bottom of the 9th against the Marlins. That's when the Fish would walk it off. All right, some were drafted, some signed as undrafted free agents. Others, they're just given an invitation to come to team headquarters for a tryout. No matter which way you get there, our locals are taking that first step into the NFL, and they're getting that coveted chance to make it at the next level with those invitations. The work begins this weekend. Several NFL teams holding their annual rookie camps. The Chiefs are at it, giving us our first look at former Utah State Aggie Jalen Royals and former Kearns Cougar Jeffrey Bassa in Chiefs jerseys. Royals said Patrick Mahomes has already reached out to him and welcomed him to Kansas City, and he's getting his first taste of Andy Reid's offense, which Royals says is pretty complex. And the feeling of practicing for the first time in an NFL uniform, well, it's unlike any other he's had before.
It's been a joyous feeling. Very anxious too. It's my first time being out here and first time in the NFL, so it's very anxious, but I'm also happy.
What would you consider this to be a successful weekend for you?
Just coming in, competing, and learning the offense. I think that's the biggest thing for me.
Does this first day feel like comparable to anything else you've felt before? Can you compare this first day feeling to something else?
Nah, I really can't. It's not even similar to the first day of school, no. So.
It's got to be better than the first day of school, right? Well, while most NHL players. BYU added a big-time addition to their defensive line this week in the transfer portal. BYU signing D lineman out of Oklahoma State. We'll have more on that tonight at 9. All right, now let's get to Utah hockey. While most NHL players are not currently in the playoffs, that aren't currently in the playoffs are already on their offseason breaks, the Utah Hockey Club still has several players staying busy this month at the World Championships in Stockholm, Sweden. On Friday, Barrett Hayton was named to Team Canada's roster, while Clayton Keller, Logan Cooley, Josh Doan, and Michael Kesselring will all be skating for the United States. For Michael Kesselring, this is just more proof of the track his career path is currently on. When he moved to Utah with the rest of the team last year, he wasn't quite sure of what his status was on Coach Bear's roster. He played 65 games the previous season, but Utah went out and added to that blue line by signing Mikhail Sergachev, John Marino, and Oli Mata. Still, Kesselring notched career highs in goals, assists, and points, as well as ice time in all 82 games. He took 150 shots, which is 6th most on the team and most by a defenseman. And the consensus from his team is he's going to be a big-time player for this franchise in years to come.
He wants to be the best, and that's what you want to see from younger guys, obviously. So, yeah. But I think he starting to realize what he's good at.
After 20 games here, I felt established. I felt like I proved that I'm an everyday, every night kind of player. And now it's just about taking that next step into a bigger role and keep growing and keep getting better. I think I have a lot of the tools to be a guy that can put up points and play good defensively. So it's just about bringing it every night. And yeah, it's nice now. I know I belong, and now it's just time to build off that.
There's no doubting Logan Cooley's status on this team. Not only does he belong, but Utah would love for him to belong for many years to come. His current contract expires after next season, and this time next year, Cooley could be entering free agency unless he's able to agree to a contract extension with Utah. July 1st is the date that players and teams can start talking about contract extensions.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, I think, there's still a lot of work to be done, and, my career is obviously just getting started, but, it's cool to reflect on some things. It was last year you're in college, and the next thing you're playing against Crosby, and so it's a dream come true. It's something that I love to do and want to do for a while. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool here, and it would be a spot that I want to be for a while.
The greatest 2 minutes in sports, the run for the roses, the first leg of the Triple Crown, whatever you want to call it. The Kentucky Derby is an American sports staple. Each year on the first Saturday in May, it's the oldest major sports event in the United States to be held annually since it began in 1875, and today it delivered another thriller at Churchill Downs.
Two of them go right by with a furlong to run. Journalism and sovereignty, nose to nose, down to the last 16th of a mile. Sovereignty has taken the lead. Journalism is second toward the inside. Baez is third, but it will be sovereignty to rule the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, Journalism was the 4-1 favorite when the race started, but Sovereignty at 9-1 odds is the one that came down the stretch for the win. It's Sovereignty's in first place, Journalism in second, Baeza came in third place, and Final Gambit finished fourth. Next up on the Triple Crown, the Preakness Stakes in just 2 weeks from today. Well, professional golf has returned to Utah this weekend, one of the highest-paying tournaments on the LPGA Tour. We'll take you down to the third round of the Black Desert Championship coming up in a bit. Legendary head coach Gregg Popovich stepping away from coaching after nearly 3 decades with the Spurs. We're going to look back at his career with a Utah Jazz twist to it coming up in a little bit. And the countdown continues, now just 9 days away until the NBA draft lottery. Justin Zanuck tells us about the possibilities for the Jazz in this upcoming draft next. The last time the LPGA brought a stop on their tour to Utah, the entire payout was less than $2,000, but that was 60 years ago. This weekend, $3 million. And at that price tag, the Black Desert Championship in Ivins is one of the top 5 most paying stops on tour this season, outside of the major championships, of course. Round 3 of this tournament took place today. Hater on You had the 36-hole lead, 2 shots ahead to start the day, but Roning Yeen was making a charge today out of the bunker on 13. Watch this. Pulls the string back on that one. It'll end up stopping about 6 feet from the cup. She would birdie the hole, finishing with a low round of 10 under. She's 16 under for the tournament, and she is in the hunt. Esther Hensleit was also making a push to the top. Birdies the 10th there. She's tied for second currently with Yeen. But Ryu is in the zone down in Ivins.
Nice tempo to that swing.
Oh, beautiful. In it goes. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, Ryu was tied for the lead before the shot, but with that eagle, she builds a 2-shot lead. The third round is still winding down at Black Desert. Ryu still holding on to the lead. We'll get you all cut up tonight at 9. On the PGA Tour, the CJ Cup, the Byron Nelson, Scotty Scheffler, world's #1, had the lead after day 2, currently in the lead now, birdies holes 2 and 3. Scheffler with a 5-stroke lead over Adam Schenk. All right, after 29 years as the San Antonio Spurs head coach, Gregg Popovich announced this week that he's officially retiring from coaching. Even though he steps away from the bench, Pop will remain with the franchise as the team's president. Pop's 29 seasons with the Spurs is the most with the same franchise in NBA history. Jerry Sloan is second on that list with 23 seasons in Utah. Now, Pop went to the playoffs in 22 of his 29 seasons, but only 3 times did he ever face the Utah Jazz in the postseason. The first time came in the 1998 playoffs, the Jazz second run to the NBA Finals. The two teams met up in the second round. Tim Duncan averaged 21 points per game in the series. David Robinson added 18.8 points and 12.6 rebounds. But the mailman powered the Jazz to the series win in 5 games. The two teams would not meet again in the postseason until 2007, the Western Conference Finals. Darren Williams averaged 25.8 points and Carlos Boozer poured in 21 per game in the series. But the script was flipped this time, and the Spurs beat the Jazz in 5 games. Pop taking the Spurs to their 4th NBA Finals and 4th NBA title when they would sweep LeBron and the Cavs. The only other time the two teams met in the postseason came in the 2012 first round. The only time Ty Corbin took the Jazz to the playoffs was this series. Al Jefferson was the Jazz leading scorer in the series, but the Spurs were dominant. Led by Tony Parker, Tim Duncan, and Steven Jackson, the Spurs would sweep the Jazz in 4 games with an average margin of victory of 16 points. 5 years later, Popovich would tie himself to Jazz history once again, this time midway through the 2016-17 season with the Spurs. A 102-86 win over the 76ers. Popovich would tie Jerry Sloan for the most wins by a head coach with a single franchise in NBA history. After the game, Pop explained what it meant to him to be in Sloan's company in only a way that Pop could do it, right?
You matched Jerry Sloan for most wins with one franchise. I know records don't mean a lot to you, but considering it's Jerry Sloan, does that record have a little more meaning?
No, he's in a different league than me.
Brett Brown was telling us before the game, back in the day, you guys modeled a lot of what you did on Jerry and Utah and that stuff.
Yeah,
was that a...
It was then and still is a class organization, and we tried to, do it similarly to them as far as how we conducted the program and what we expected and how to do it and how to keep it to yourself and that sort of thing. But you get all those wins, it's just a longevity thing more than anything. So I'm thankful for having the job for a while.
Then on March 11th, 2022, Gregg Popovich would make NBA history against the Utah Jazz. The Jazz would blow a 15-point fourth quarter lead against the Spurs. That was a familiar story that season. DeJounte Murray scored a game-high 27 points, and the Spurs won by 2, 104-102, the 1,336th win of Popovich's career, breaking the all-time record. Popovich now retiring with 1,412 all-time wins. Doc Rivers is the next closest active head coach, but he still is 249 wins behind Pops. All right, who else has one of those paper ring countdown hanging things from their ceiling? You cut down one ring for each day we get closer to the NBA draft lottery. By the way, it's 9 days away, right? And much like counting down to Christmas, we could all wake up the next morning pretty excited or somewhat disappointed too, right? The Jazz lost a franchise record 65 games and secured the worst record in the NBA this season. So what does that mean for this upcoming lottery? Well, the Jazz, along with the Wizards and Hornets, each have a 14% chance at getting the #1 pick. And because they have the worst record, even if the Jazz don't win the lottery, they can't pick any worse than 5. And Justin Zanuck likes the possibilities in front of the Jazz no matter where they'll be picking.
The lottery is the lottery. I mean, we've done everything we can to control where we are. I can't control what the results are May 12th. I do know that if we select that selection that we're going to get I think I'm excited about that, to add another good young player to our group. You know, you guys can bring out all your rabbit's foots and Lucky Charms and see what happens, but we're going to be able to add a good player. And then it's our job for whatever young player we draft is to get them better and to develop them and hopefully develop into a core piece with us.
Well, hold on a second. Did you hear that? We've done everything we can to control where we are. That's what Justin Zanuck just said. Is that the first admission to tanking? Look, we all understood the assignment this season, but teams don't usually admit to playing the lottery game. Now, though, it's all up to Lady Luck, and Justin Zanuck just wants Jazz fans to know the team is grateful for their patience and ongoing support through this entire rebuild.
There were a lot of positives that came from this season. I know it was tough with wins and losses, but the development of our young players, the establishment of a continued culture and foundation. I couldn't be more proud of our coaching staff and our players. I also am really continue to be awed by our fans and our community for the support that they give us every year. There's so many competitive teams out there that are in the playoffs, and we go to their arenas and it's half full. It's just amazing. So thank you to our fans and the support of our organization, and it's never lost on us for that support.
Real Salt Lake will be on the pitch tonight in Vancouver to take on the Whitecaps. Real Salt Lake is making in-season moves already to improve their roster at the expense of a longtime rival. After acquiring Willie Agata from Sporting KC in a trade, RSL has also signed another former Kansas City player to the roster. Johnny Russell is the newest member of Real Salt Lake. He comes to Utah after 7 years with Sporting KC. The Scotland native is a player RSL fans loved to hate, but now he's one of the good guys. And as a 35-year-old vet, he looks forward to bringing much-needed experience to this young roster.
Exciting young team, you know, extremely talented young guys who maybe just need a little bit of experience around, a little bit of help, and you know that's what I'm here to do on and off the field. You know, once I spoke to Pablo, it was a no-brainer after that, and hopefully I can share some wisdom, some of my experience as well, and help them in the right direction.
Well, with the Jazz and the Utah Hockey Club seasons over with, the Delta Center, it's closed for business. Now it's time for some necessary upgrades to the downtown arena. And with Smith Entertainment Group, they gave us a sneak peek at what they're working on. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that coming up next. First time ever, we were fortunate enough to experience an NBA and NHL season simultaneously in our state. The Delta Center was one of the busiest buildings in the entire state. But the arena as is, it just won't do. Smith Entertainment Group, they knew that when the NHL came to town, and now they're beginning the multi-year process to upgrading Delta Center to be a worthy home for both of those teams. Renovations inside the DC are already underway, and when it's all said and done with, the arena will have 17,000 unobstructed view seats for NHL compared to the 11,131 they had this past season. And they will be able to host 19,000 fans for Jazz games. So how will they do this? Well, they'll do it in an innovative way by raising the floor 2 feet up and then creating a never-before-done retractable seating system. Half of the renovations will be done this offseason, the rest next offseason. You can read more about these details and see more of the detailed plans for the renovations over at KSLSports.com. All right, when we come back, we've got some good news for some Utah rugby and Utah lacrosse teams. And this BYU runner did something that only 5 other BYU track and field runners have ever done before. What was it? We'll show you next. the Utah Warriors got their league-leading 8th win of the season with a 38-31 win over the San Diego Legion. Utah, at 8-2 this season, now has 41 points in the standings. The Warriors will be taking on Old Glory DC tomorrow with 6 games remaining until the playoffs. They are in a great position to make a playoff run. How about the University of Utah lacrosse team? They took down the Bellarmine Knights in the ASUN semifinal on Friday afternoon. With that win, they will now go for the 3rd straight ASUN championship. They'll face Air Force in the championship game Sunday at 10 a.m. We'll have all the highlights tomorrow on KSL Sports Live. And no surprise here, BYU track and field is very good, and they make the news again. In Friday's Robinson Invitational, BYU had 3 runners placed in the top 5 in the mile. Carter Cutting led the way for the Cougars, crossing the mile with a sub-4-minute time. In the outdoor mile, you see it there, 3:59.39. He is the 5th BYU runner to finish with a sub-4-minute mile in BYU track and field history. That is a remarkable running feat, and of course, they continue their dominance on the track. Hey, come back tonight at 9 o'clock. We'll have all of your highlights of NBA playoffs.